All right. Hello, viewers. I would love it if you could drop a comment, whichever direction that is, in the live chat. Let me know where you are tuning in from. Let me know how the sound is, too loud, too quiet. I hope you're all enjoying your Saturday despite the state of the world right now. Waiting to see. We got a few people on. That's awesome. Feel free to hit the like button or subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We'll give people a few more minutes to show up here. Again, if you want to comment, if you're not logged in, you have to be logged into YouTube to comment in the live chat. Um, awesome, Wendy. And this is also a good place for you to put questions. If you have questions throughout the broadcast, that's where I can see them and I will answer them when I see them, as long as I'm not in the middle of reading a poem. Okay. I'm assuming since no one's saying anything, that means sound is all good, picture's all good, everybody's all good. Thanks for the likes, guys. Okay. Well, I guess let's just get started. If people aren't here, they'll get here when they get here. Show up fashionably late. That's what artists do, right? Anyway, welcome again. This is the official virtual book launch for my latest book of poetry, Interstitials. This is my bookmarked copy, as you can see. This is my 7th book of poetry, so it's the most polished, I would say, in terms of everything. I mean, I've had a lot of practice now publishing my own work under Red Sweater Press, and I hope to be doing more of that in the future. And before I start reading tonight, I just want to say a huge thank you to David Cheesem, who founded Fireside Books in Palmer long ago. I'm not sure what year, many years ago. And he's not the owner of that establishment anymore, but he graciously agreed to write the foreword to Interstitials. So if I was able to have him here on this broadcast, I would have, but as you can imagine, I'm a little new to this. We're all a little bit new to the virtual world of doing things. In any case, huge thank you to David for writing that foreword, and I hope you enjoy what he has to say about my book. And without further ado, let's read some poems. So I think I'm going to start out with 2 very short poems. And the first one is the first one in the book, and it's called Short Timing It. I say that one summer will only last as long as there is love to be had among thieves who steal time. I think I'll read the short poems again because, like I said, they're super short and it might take a second read to really get it. And before I read it again, I want to note that a few poems in this book, actually, maybe about 30% of them, are a few years old. And the rest of them were written around last year, mostly last year. Um, but this one is an older one that has stuck around in this form for a while. I enjoy it. So I'm going to read Short Timing It again. I say that one summer will only last as long as there is love to be had among thieves who steal time. I see my sister has tuned in. Hello, sister. My second short poem I'm going to read for you is near the back, and it's called Pockets. This is also an older one. If only I were more like my tiny, useless pockets, unable to hold anything that isn't small, light, or otherwise unburdensome, anything that doesn't belong. And I'll read that one again too. Both of these poems, let's see. The first one is. Wait, is that right? 9 lines. Huh, I totally thought it was 10. It's 9 lines. And then this one I just read is only 6. So I'll read Pockets again. If only I were more like my tiny, useless pockets, unable to hold anything that isn't small, light, or otherwise unburdensome. Anything that doesn't belong. And if you don't know, I wrote that poem about some tiny pockets in women's jeans because, let's face it, they're just not practical most of the time. So, that's the that's our starting poems today. I will read a bunch more, and if you happen to be one of those few people who has already seen this manuscript or has already bought this book because it has been available for about a month now, um, you can make requests if you would like. And right, Wendy? Big pockets is a must. Dresses with pockets, pockets. Women love pockets. Maybe men love pockets too, I don't know. But I've noticed that's a trend among many young women and not young women I know. um, so, also, time for mentioning giveaways and things like that. If you have seen any of my marketing efforts, hopefully you saw the information on free books. So, the first three people to order a copy of Interstitials, either through Amazon or my website, redsweaterpress.com, you guys can choose one of my older books to have for free. So you get a copy of Interstitials that you've purchased, and then you get one of my earlier copies. Now I have my email open. I get those orders right as they come in from my website. If you're ordering on Amazon, you can just send me a screenshot of your receipt without the payment information or have that wiped out, however you want to do it. Um, and then I will note that and I'll send you an email and um, I will ask you which book you want. And that email is Kate, Cait, at redsweaterpress.com. So if you're sending me a screenshot from Amazon, that's where you send it, Kate at redsweaterpress.com. Otherwise, I'll get it automatically if you order from my website. And if you are new to my work, I have my former books, my previous books here. So the first one being Songs from the Underground. And most of them, the first four, I would say, are more chapbook length. So Interstitials has about 50 poems. This book has about 20, and the others have 30 to 40. So that's 20 to 40 is general chapbook length, I believe. So Songs from the Underground is the first book. Ever Unknown, Ever Misunderstood is the second. The third is Uneven Lanes, which has a photo of that I took from Vine Road in Wasilla after the earthquake in 2018. Wow, it was already a year and a half ago. So that's a fun little thing. Unfortunately, there aren't any poems about the earthquake in this book because these poems were written before the earthquake. But if you want a commemorative book cover from that event, this one's for you. The fourth book is called The Compendium of Lost Poems. That's this one. And I also, this one is not available as the freebie because it's a little bit different kind of text. But I also have Wabi Sabi World if you are interested. This one has a shiny cover. I don't think the ones available on my website do. Well, I know they don't. The ones on Blurb where I ordered them might have that option if you want to do that. Anyway, if you're interested in photography or Japanese language and haiku, you might also look into this one. So that's enough about books, I think, for the time being. So I will read you another poem called Summer after I get a drink of water. And that reminds me, you'll notice these handy water bottle stickers with my logo. Unfortunately, I don't have any more of the water bottle stickers, but I do have some homemade stickers I made from old business cards that didn't print quite right. So when you order a book, whether you're part of the giveaways or freebies or whatever, you get one of these handy little homemade logo stickers if you would like that. And okay, time to read another poem. Actually, I should check my email because I've got, okay, we got one order here, I believe. I get like 3 emails for one order. So, Dan, thank you for that. I will convene with you at the end about which free book you would like. And let's read some poems. Although that might be Rebecca and not Dan. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, right. This one comes right after that one. So, Summer is the second poem in the book. If May is the month of motorcycles, then June is the juxtaposition of small dogs in classic cars, their rolled down windows allowing wind-blown hair to wave to the beat of modern punk rock. This summer is for such aphorisms and anachronisms, quieted only by sunshine and lawn chairs on the porch, which need no invitation. The birds would like their privacy, but the promise of free food emboldens them enough to partake in our presence and complete the picture of our personal paradise. So that one's a bit longer. I don't think I need to reread that one. But if any of you guys would like to hear another poem again, you can feel free to put that in the chat there. And this one I actually remember distinctly when I wrote it. I was in the parking lot of Wasilla Wells Fargo, just observing things. And that's kind of a theme to this book is just observations. My previous book, oh my gosh, I didn't even mention that. Ha! The one before this is Stakes, and this book has a few more vaguely political poems and just critiques on the world. But this latest book, Interstitials, is a lot more reflective and personal. So, but I would say you don't have to know me personally um, to enjoy these poems or to have them resonate with you, I would hope. And yeah, I have a lot of things to get through. I want to make sure I cover it all. But again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat there and I will see them and respond to them as I can. And I wanted to, before I read some more poems, say thank you also to the various writing organizations that have really supported me um, prior to this pandemic and during the move to online, all these things. Poetry Parlay, for one, is an organization based out of Anchorage that would normally meet at the Writer's Block on Spinard. Wonderful place, bookstore, cafe, also serves alcohol, pretty much the best, especially for writers. It's a great place. And Poetry Parlay really encouraged me over this last year in my publishing efforts and just being able to meet with people and share poetry. And what I love about that is, anybody can walk in and experience it. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about poetry and think it's this high minded, ethereal. Yeah, Jen, absolutely. Um, this kind of abstract thing that you can't possibly understand. And as you can see from my repurposed sign, I used this at the Read Alaska Book Fair last year. My goal is to write poetry that is artful and accessible. So yes, I do write abstract poems every once in a while, but I'm also constantly changing, and I really focus on the reflective aspect a lot. So um, for whatever that's worth. Hey, Eric, nice to see you here. See you here. Let's read some more poems. And I'm going in order that these appear in the book. I won't read every poem, obviously, but this one is called Poem for Yesterday. And it was like I had been there before. One late night, early morning, when the division between light and dark was 3 fingers of gold sky, flattened against the expanse, of rosy gray and bluish gray and dark stone heavy gray, all in one big heap of cloud, resting on the horizon until night collapsed all color. Then again tonight, today, I saw that same small, inspired space was sheltered beneath the shying darkness, folding back its hem to leave something uncovered in the light. I can only assume we can't turn back. That was another one that's a little bit older, maybe not as old as the short timing it one and the pockets one. Um, I don't actually write a lot of nature poetry, I wouldn't say. And part of that may be some kind of ingrained resistance to being pigeonholed. You know, being from Alaska, um, even in my English major as an undergrad, I was often encouraged to write about Alaska and my experiences there. But at the time, you know, I didn't want anything to do with Alaska. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to talk about everything else. And then, to make a kind of a 180, I happened to read some John Haynes at the suggestion of a friend this winter, and man, I fell in love with it. And I'm especially leery of people who come to Alaska just for a short time and say, "Oh, this is some beautiful exotic place." When, you know, for me, like, this is my hometown. This is where I live. And so I'm leery of people who come here with this big dream because I'm afraid that they're going to over romanticize it, you know? Like, Alaska's great, but at some point, I just want people to, you know, calm down. There's a Target and a Walmart here, just like everywhere else. But in any case, I read John Haynes, loved his stuff, and so I'm coming back around to appreciating at least nature poetry. I can't say whether or not I will write some more, but I definitely appreciate it. And poem for yesterday um, demonstrates a leaning back towards that, I suppose. Hey, Uncle Brad. Oh, yes. Another thing I wanted to mention is when you. Oh, I should check my orders. Okay. Um, if you guys are ordering from my website, make sure you, in the shipping comments, leave a note if you would like to have me sign it, and whether or not you just want me to sign my name or sign some kind of specific greeting, especially if it's not going to be made out to you. Like, if you're buying this for a family member, let me know in the shipping comments so that I can sign it appropriately. I'm sorry, I keep messing with my hair. um, Make sure you do that. Indicate whether you want me to sign it or not. Again, if you're coming in late or if you missed it, first 3 people to buy a book tonight get a free one of my previous books. You get to choose. We can email converse about that after the broadcast. And if you're buying from Amazon, just send me a screenshot to kate@redsweaterpress.com so that I can get you in the queue, as it were. All right, more poems. This one's a fairly light one, and actually, I think most of the ones, if not all of the ones I'm reading tonight, are fairly light, which I think is appropriate given the world climate right now. So, this one is a bit shorter. It's called Thank God for Coffee and Beer. It occurs to me that the reason we invite people for coffee or beer is for want of something to do with our hands and mouths when we ask the big questions or opinions get controversial. And we either want to reach out and slap our date across the face or caress them. Propriety be damned. Thank God for coffee and beer. And that one, a few people saw and gave some feedback on, but I like that one. That's one of my favorites, I guess. Thank God for coffee and beer. Because, well, you know why. um, in any case, what else do you need to know? Yes. So I wanted to also discuss buying books from Amazon versus buying books from me directly on redsweaterpress.com. I have some friends I know who don't want to purchase anything from Amazon for various reasons, and I totally get that. If you are not averse, one benefit to you purchasing on Amazon is that the more purchases that are made there, the easier it is for my book to get seen by people searching for other books of poetry, whether it's random or people are actually looking for me and my work. So if you're not averse to purchasing from Amazon, great for you to do that. Also, that means I don't have to deal with shipping materials, which isn't a big deal. And that's why I have an online store. But that's just some food for thought. And also, if you buy from Amazon, you can review on Amazon, and that's another thing that helps me is positive reviews of my work. So, something to keep in mind when you're ordering, whoever you're ordering from. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Do we have any questions at this point? Seeing all your comments, everybody who's commented so far, awesome. But any questions people have about the book or about Red Sweater Press or anything? No? Okay, you're just here for the poetry? That's fine. Oh, did I put this in my list? I don't think I did. I wanted to draw your attention to the maybe infamous, at least among my friends, red sweater. This is actually the sweatshirt that my business is named after. Thank you to Shannon. Shout out to my BFF Shannon, who helped me come up with the name Red Sweater Press. This sweatshirt, if you don't know the story, my dad bought for me when I was about 10 when he went to DC on a work trip. And um, he he bought it for me because it was red. And at the time, my favorite color was red, which, shocker, it's actually not now. Maybe I was overwhelmed with it. But this sweatshirt is either, I think it's an adult large, so it still doesn't fit me. But when I was in sixth grade, I wore it just about every day. And you can see the cuffs unraveling because I wore it so often. So that's a little fun fact about the red sweater. And what else should I tell you? Oh, my brother in law is asking, have you ever thought about writing an epic poem? Yes, is the short answer. I generally tend toward shorter poems. The 10-line poem is like my sweet spot, or at least it was for a while. But I actually wrote a fairly long poem. It's a few pages long on winter solstice this past December, which is not quite ready for the world yet, but maybe come next winter it will be. I would love to get that one published. So I think as I get older, also I'm tending toward these longer poems. Maybe not epic poems, but who knows? I have enjoyed some epic poems that I've read that I had to read for class, but um, I think it's fascinating. But it's a whole different monster than just the free verse, off the cuff kind of poems. Oh, my Uncle Brad asked about making songs from my poems. Yes, absolutely. Go for it. You have my permission. And if you guys don't know my Uncle Brad, he's a uh, great musician. Actually, kind of wrote some music to one of my songs or one of my poems in Ever Unknown, Ever Misunderstood, called In the Dying Light, which, as you might expect, is after Dylan Thomas. But that one, maybe if I ever get brave enough, I will sing for you. Something. Oh, thanks, Obi, but no. What else about Red Sweater Press? Well, I have some more things to say, but we'll get back to that. Let's read some poems. So we read Thank God for Coffee and Beer, and now I want to read Chemistry, which I think I'm reading this one because I think if you don't hear it read, you might get the wrong idea. But at the same time, that's something that's great about poetry is it's open to interpretation. Absolutely. And if you get something out of it that I didn't intend, I'm okay with that because that means you're thinking about it. And that shows me something too. I learned something from that. So that's great. But in any case, this is Chemistry. Whether you're single or spoken for, thousands of miles from home or right in your proverbial backyard, there's a spark in the air that surrounds your body in the midst of attraction. A tingling sensation that has you hoping no one can see the fluorescent feeling emanating from your eye sockets, has you reasoning there must be a scientific explanation, or else your world will come crashing down, inflating your heart to impossible proportions and beating your brain into oblivion. Can you get an aneurysm from infatuation? Fear not. You can be comforted, knowing your emotions are actually the body's attempt to sound the mating call, a series of neuron firings and glandular fluctuations designed to get you procreating, which you recognize will produce a whole set of other long living problems. And that sets you walking away, thinking, of course, it's just science. With all the enthusiasm of a freshman forced to memorize the periodic table of elements, learning to live in a world without magic. So that one has been through a few edits, mostly line breaks, but um, and I've had mixed responses to this poem, but really, um, I guess it was mostly about me recognizing that not every little hint of attraction um, means anything, you know? And not to take away from the romanticism of falling in love, but just to recognize that, it's okay that you experience those feelings sometimes, even if you're in a relationship, and, let them go. Just let them go. Um, but also, I like the tie-in of the science of it because I think making it concrete makes it easier to recategorize. I don't know. I hope I'm not over-explaining this because I certainly don't like to do that. But in any case, that was chemistry, and we discussed that. We discussed that. Let's check orders again. Remember, first 3 people to order get a free book of their choice, other than interstitials. Okay. Also, if you are watching and have not used the chat box yet, that's probably because you're not logged in. So you have to be signed into YouTube in order to um, use the chat. And I saw somebody. So we got Dan and we got Wendy. Thank you. Okay, that's 2. One more. Oh, Wendy also says I should read a poem from Stakes. Should I read that one now? Maybe I will, because otherwise I will probably forget. Okay, so from Stakes, this is not going to be an easy poem, so this is your time to reflect, I suppose. So Numbers is one of the many poems, well, I wouldn't say many, but several poems I've written on Rwanda. This one is actually about more than just Rwanda, but um, I have taken 2 trips there over the years, and it's such a vastly different place than this country that I can't help but write about it, of course. But I had also read a book recently on the genocide. If you don't know about the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, you should. So look it up. But I read this like 500-page book on it, and it was dry because it was very heavily about the military and the UN and these technical things. But I'm so glad I read it, and it was very informative. It's called "Shake Hands with the Devil" by Romeo Dallaire. So if you're interested in Rwanda, but this is just about you know all the major conflicts we've had, and it's called Numbers. Again, this is from Stakes. This is the book that came before Interstitials. So it came out last summer. Numbers: 6,000,000, 8,000, 800,000. Numbers of lives and loves lost in the greatest conflicts, genocides of the world. Swept up in this thing called history that shocks us, but also evades us in our realities of progress and ignorance. We remember the numbers as if that is the point. But perhaps those figures are the only tethers to sanity we have in the sea of senseless deaths around the globe. Maybe the numbers are all we have to measure just how doomed we are, and find solace in the fact that we have boxes to put our tragedies in. Now, that's one, like I said, a lot more sobering than the stuff of interstitials, but it's not as pessimistic as it might seem on first read. Again, a lot of my poems are simply about observation and accepting things as they are. Not that violence should be condoned, but that, there's no way to we can't do everything, and we can't make everyone happy, and we can't there's just we are only people, and I think accepting that in times of tragedy is often necessary. So that's what I will say about that. Let's look at our comments here. All right. Brenda, hello. Nice to see you. I recognize your name. I don't know if it's from Rattle. Oh, that's what I wanted to mention. Goodness. I mentioned the writer's block earlier and Poetry Parlay, but also, if you guys don't know about Rattle Magazine, what a cool organization. I submitted to their giant chapbook prize contest last year, and they even upped it this year, $15,000 for one poem. So if you're a poet, definitely check that out. Um, but they have, and when I say they, it's mostly Tim Green who runs it. He has been hosting a video podcast on YouTube called The Rattlecast every Tuesday for a while now, where he interviews a poet who's been published in Rattle, and then has a very short open mic at the end for people who have written a poem on the prompt delivered the week before. But they also started doing Poets Respond Live is what they call it now, an open mic on Sunday that's a little over an hour, and it's for poets who write poems about the news that happened that week. And what a great idea, right? So even though I have not had a poem accepted by them yet, I really enjoy what they have to offer, and they definitely facilitate the writing of poetry. But Brenda, to your question, as of how did I start writing poetry? Boy, I don't remember what was the first poem I wrote. It was probably in 6th grade when I had to do it for a creative writing portion of my class. And sorry, I'm really parched. Hold on. And that was when I really started to feel like I could be a writer. I think I believed that when I was much younger, but it wasn't until 6th grade I had a teacher, Mrs. Darling, who was pretty strict, which worked well with me. I always did well with strict teachers. um, and we did so many creative writing projects in that class, and she was very encouraging of the creative process, and that is what kept me going. But it wasn't until I took a poetry class with Joyce Sutphin at Gustavus for my undergrad, um, that and I was only taking the poetry class to round out my creative writing emphasis. It doesn't even go on your degree, but I was like, I must have this. So I took this class, and wow, I just loved it. I learned so much. And actually, this book, my first book, Songs from the Underground, um, all of these poems were written in her class. And it's this one, even though it was my first book and I was 18 when I wrote these poems, this book is very close to me. And yeah, I hope that answers your question about poetry. That's the best I can put it. I think I have always had dreams of being a novelist, which is still on the docket. I have written some, but we'll see when they make it out into the world. My focus is poetry right now. But as far as why I started Red Sweater Press, that's a big question that I think I'm still figuring out the answer to. But the long and the short of it, I think, is that I have so many creative loves. I don't just like to write, I like to build things. I like to draw things. I like to paint things. I like to photograph things. And so with publishing, and starting Red Sweater Press, that gave me total creative freedom to not just compile poems, but create my book from every angle. I mean, all of these covers, with the exception of Stakes, are photos that I took or manipulations of photos that I took. And so that makes the book feel much more mine. And I'm also not saying that I still intend to pursue traditional publishing, especially for novels, because I think, well, there's a lot more that goes into that. Um, but also, I, well, I guess that's the big answer. I will say a difficulty has been, um, you know, without the backing of a traditional publisher, it's much harder to market your work. um, or maybe it's not harder, but just you have to do it. It's another job for you. Um, and while that is tough, I find that I do enjoy that aspect of it too. And so that's why I think this is right for me. But I also hope to, which I was actually going to get to this later. Oh, no, we're right on time for that, almost. um, I am offering editing services now through Red Sweater Press for poetry and for fiction, as well as some other services. So you guys can look at those later if you're interested in publishing through Red Sweater Press. There aren't many publishing companies in Alaska. Most of them were just created to publish that person's work. Excuse me. And I would like to publish other people's work. So, starting June 1st, so 2 days from now, you guys are free to send me manuscripts if you would like, and we can go from there. All right, we got some more questions popping up. Oh, you guys want me to read poems that are about now? Okay, fine. But we will read more poems from interstitials. So let's read this one. And then after that, I will. Oh, Lisa, so many questions. Hello. Thank you for coming. Okay. So my sister wants me to read a poem from the Compendium of Lost Poems. This is the one that came before Stakes. So this is the fourth book, not counting Wabi Sabi. Wabi Sabi is kind of in its own category. Um, so she'd like me to read Indifference, which I have to find that one. This is another. Is this one about Rwanda? Or is this? No, this is before the one about Rwanda. Um, that one's called Shaken Days. So this is another one I wrote. Well, a little bit of history about the Compendium of Lost Poems. I had published books 1, 2, and 3, as I refer to them, even though they don't have to be in order. I'd published those over spring break last year, actually, pre Red Sweater Press, and then later through Red Sweater Press. Last spring break? 2 spring breaks ago. Last spring break. Yeah. But this is a poem I wrote, I think, when I was 19 and deep in um, my what I want to call is protest phase, but that's kind of not even right because I just went to like one on campus. But it was just I was having a hard time being in my own skin, I think, too. Um, so this one is called Indifference. I am ashamed to be white when I see Hollywood productions of mass murder and genocide, when theatrical art tells the story of otherness and oppression as an expose. I want to weep and wonder if I am any different. I committed no murder, and I hated no race, but what about the love I never gave, the thoughts I never had for someone less privileged than I? How does one go on living with the sense of belonging to such a character which causes utter devastation, one of ignorance and arrogance? Is to come to terms with the past possible for the preservation of the future? I'm waiting for the answer, and I wonder if I am like them. So, again, to go back to what I said after reading Numbers, I think it's good for us to be uncomfortable and to not know what to do and to recognize that and this isn't just true of white people, any kind of community, like whether it's a church group or it's a, I don't know, a soccer team, like we all, I think, have experienced that feeling of belonging to something that's not um that doesn't exemplify our values, and that hurts to feel like you belong to something that or some group that has done some wrong, you know? Um, so that's where those poems are coming from. Just some food for thought. Oh, lots of questions and comments. Thank you guys. Let's check the orders again. Remember, first three people to buy get a free book of their choice. Okay, I think we got our three. We got Dan, we got Wendy, we got Brad. All right, top three have been ordered. So, on to the next five. So, the next five people to order a book from me or from Amazon, you guys get free shipping. So, if you order on Amazon, that means that you can send me a screenshot of that and I can refund you via PayPal or I can send you a personal check. Because yes, I still do checks. So, next five get free shipping for those of you that want to order tonight. And we have some other deals going on. I mentioned this in my Instagram story and some other places, but remember to subscribe to the channel because if you do that, then I will enter you to a drawing to win a print of a picture that is in this book. So I'll just take a second to show you some of the photos in here. I did not bookmark them because I did not think about that. But yeah, and when you subscribe though, you have to set your subscriptions to public. Otherwise, I can't see it. So like before this started, I haven't been able to see it, but before this started, I had like 6 subscribers, but only one person had set it to public. So make sure you do that. Anyway, here's one of the photos of Mount Marathon a couple years ago, and this was from Government Peak during the wildfires last year. That's all smoke, that haze out there. Normally you can see mountains. And what else we got in here? I don't imagine many people want this, but this is my mom's cousin, Peter, at Hatcher Pass, taking a picture. That's goes along with what's there. Oh, something I didn't mention when I was talking about compiling my books is that I think of them like albums for music. And so there is a very intentional ordering of my poems and photos and things like that. There's this one. This is at Summit Lake in Hatcher Pass, also at the top right above that. And then there's this butterfly one. I think I took that on Government Peak back when I was a reporter. And then this was at, what do they call it? Wasilla Creek Trail, maybe? I don't know. There's a boardwalk that goes out there. I took this in the winter. And there's a few more. This one was taken in Rwanda. Oops, sorry. We lost our focus here. My camera does an autofocus thing. I think this was this last summer when I went there. I can't believe I've forgotten that already, but yeah, this is summer or last summer. And then a little cup of coffee. I think that's the last one. Yep. So you can either look back through this video later and see which image you like, or you can wait till you receive the book and then tell me. That's all good. But I will announce the winner of that. Let's see. I can't see my subscribers from here. So I think what I will do is I will announce that on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Red Sweater Press. So if you don't follow those channels, you can do that and see if you won the giveaway. I will do everything in my power to contact you. Either way. Okay, so we covered that. Also, feel free to like this video because that means more people will see it, which means more people will look at my work and maybe want to buy it, which is how you support writers. So let's read some more poems. We might go a little over today. I was thinking end it at 5, but since we've got some good engagement, we might go beyond that. Let me read. Shoot, I got 2 people that want me to read the zebra sock, both family. But I think. Oh, I thought I answered this, but maybe I didn't. To answer Aaron's questions about book covers and images in books, all of the images I have used, except for the cover on Stakes and maybe a few images in Wabi Sabi World, those were taken by me. And I'll just take a second to show you what Wabi Sabi is about, because at the beginning is an essay that I wrote again during college and tweaked it from them. I have some Creative Commons images in here as illustrations, but most of them are mine. In fact, that might be the only one in this version. I think the rest were taken. Oh, this one too is a Creative Commons image, but the rest I believe were taken by me in Japan, and then when I was there in 2013. And then the rest of it is images that I took accompanied by haiku, which are both in English and Japanese. Most of them were composed in Japanese first, something to note. And so the English ones won't always be in the 575 3-line format if they were translations. So, but they are translations of my own writing in Japanese. Anyway, so that's the deal with that. I may come back to the zebra sock, but now I want to take a little different turn to this poem. It's called For Misha, the Actor, the Angel, which, if you don't know, full disclosure, Misha is the name of the actor who plays Castiel the Angel on Supernatural. And I've talked about this in events before, but I think we shouldn't shy away from writing poems about things that we enjoy. You know, these pop culture, it seems kind of funny because poetry seems like this sacred art to some people, but it's so personal and human. Like, why would we not talk about every aspect of our lives in poetry? And also, I, um, when I wrote this, I was in a period where I was reading all kinds of things on Supernatural, watching interviews and reading books about them and featuring like fan made works, all this kind of stuff. Not fan fiction, but not that that's wrong. That's just not my thing. Um, but essays and things like that about it that were really interesting. And um, I think this might have also been when he sent out a message like, "Hey, text me a poem," or something like that. And this is what came out of that. So this is For Misha, the actor, the angel. You asked for a poem, and I wrote one, in secret, unknown even to me, but inspired by you reaching out, an idol in this world, extending an olive branch of sorts, a salve to our ache for a supernatural connection, primetime holy water, quenching our salivating psyches, soothing egos that long to be needed. But at the end of the day, you're just a man trying to do good and be loved like the rest of us. And so what? Why shouldn't we be the same? Let these words and your quest for kindness be a celebration of our mutual humanity. And that one also is, actually, I guess I'll just say it now. I'm surprised nobody has asked yet. But the title of interstitials, I had some questions on before. Because it's not a word in common usage. And if you look it up, you'll come up with like math and interstitial cystitis or something weird. But that word interstitials actually came from something Misha said at a panel. And I don't think I'm going to tell you about it quite yet because it refers, there's a poem at the end that I want to read that refers to that same conversation. And, but basically, or at least the way that I have used it, interstitial space, yeah. So there are many ways it's used, but at base, it's this idea of things that are in between. You know, the little moments, the little tiny spaces in between what seem like the big deal. You know, I think a lot of poems can be found there in that space. Hence this name of this book. Okay, so we covered that. We covered that. Newsletter. If you have not subscribed to my newsletter yet, please do that. You can go to redsweaterpress.com and there should be a pop up, but if there's not, there's a box at the bottom, I think, of every page. And that is a monthly email you'll get that has a fresh poem. So one that has not been published or shown really to anyone. I wrote a ton of poems over the last few months, which we'll come back to. So I'm not going to run out of material for that anytime soon. So anyway, in the newsletter, you get a poem, you get updates on publishing, how things are going at Red Sweater Press, what's new, or what's new in the publishing world, and then an author of the month feature where I just pick an author that I like to highlight that month and tell you a little bit about them and show you where to buy their books or read their stuff. And then I end it with a link to my latest blog post. So I have two websites, one redsweaterpress.com, the other katebuxbaum.com, which Kate Buxbaum has my blog. And so the Red Sweater Letter is what it's called, combines information from both of those sites and from me personally. So I think it's great content. We sent out the first one on the 1st of this month. The next one will come in a couple days. And yeah, that's a great thing that I would love you to subscribe to, in addition to my YouTube channel. So that's the newsletter. Let's read some more poems. Do I want to say anything else? I mentioned that. Oh, I was going to answer Lisa's question. Sorry, Lisa. Let's come back to that first. How much time do you dedicate to writing per week? Whew. Well, now, well, let's see. In the last few months, it's been more consistent. Prior to that, I didn't actually have a standard for how much I was going to write. Starting on just before solstice, winter solstice, I decided I was going to write a poem every day from winter solstice to summer solstice. And so then it wasn't a matter of how much time I was committing, but just, okay, I have to write a poem every day. And sometimes that poem would be a haiku, and it wasn't even a very good one. Or I wrote several terrible limericks. But there were other days where I wrote four, and they were all pretty good. At least I thought so at the time. I haven't gone back to look at them in a while. And so it hasn't been super consistent, but I try to at least devote 20 minutes in the morning to doing some writing. And while it's mostly been poetry, it's probably going to change, when I go back to writing some more fiction. Not that I necessarily left, but I'll keep you posted on that. How much time do you spend marketing your works per month? What inspired you to offer editing services? So editing has been something, I'm going to answer that part first. Editing has been something that, this might sound a little cliche, but I've been told, basically since high school, had friends and classmates, look to me for editing because they thought that I would be helpful. And in the beginning, I think it was also because I was pretty brutal with my editing. I actually got called out in a freshman classics class by the professor for being too harsh in my critique of a classmate's paper when we had to do peer edits. I'd like to think I've developed a softer touch since then, but it's something that I kind of do compulsively. So it seems like it makes sense that I would offer that, that I would want to do that for people because I'm going to do it anyway with whatever I'm reading, looking for typos and things like that. I mean, there's much more to editing than just looking for typos, but I've been told that I'm good at it. I enjoy doing it. I guess is the short answer. That's why editing. But also, as for marketing, I probably spend, well, I don't know how much I spend specifically marketing, but looking at my hours sheet recently, I spend anywhere between 40 and 70 hours a month doing writing related things. And that could be marketing, that could, social media, or setting up ads on like YouTube and Facebook, which is social media. But print ads, I sometimes do that too. That could be educating myself, reading books, watching videos, and listening to podcasts about how I can, better my craft or improve my business. So, and this is a young business. For those of you that don't know, this only started last year. So, we'll see where it goes. I hope someplace great. But okay, we definitely need to read some more poems here. I'm going to read why don't I read 2 in a row? Well, I'm gonna skip that one. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna read kitchen dancing music. It's this kitchen dancing music that drives my hips, moves my feet, thrills my heart, fills my lungs with that oxygen alternate euphoria, joy in the abandonment of inhibition. With the blinds closed, no one else will know how my bones resound from this audial experience, making me a fool on a Friday afternoon. That one I have things to say about too, but since we're short on time, I think I will just let you imagine it. Let's check our orders before I read some more. Got a bunch of emails. Ah, okay. 1, 2, 3. Cool. 4, 5. Okay, so I got 2 people to refund shipping to. There are 3 more slots for that. So the next 3 people, you guys can get your shipping back if you send me a screenshot, or if you order from me, I'll just send it right back through the PayPal address you left. So 3 more people that can get free shipping on their books. I mentioned that. I mentioned that. Okay, cool. I think, yeah. Actually, I won't skip this one. I do want to read this. This one is called The Patio or Epitaph, which was written for Jim, my dad's friend Jim, who passed away a few years ago. Um, yeah, I like this is a nice poem. I'll read this. Between the paving stones and the cinder blocks, commingling with dirt, sand, and sweat, swimming in a thick, dark cloud of mosquitoes, I spotted a small thing called love. Though the body fails, the spirit will not, and just a hand or a dozen glazed donuts, or a carton of cold French fries for the dog, can remind a person what it means to give, to build on a foundation, no matter how much time, life remains. So Jim helped my family build the patio at my parents' house, um, and I was remembering that time after his funeral. I think that I wrote that. So oh, interesting. Okay. Let's see. We have about 3 minutes until the hour, but I was going to read 4 more poems, and that's going to take more than 3 minutes. So let me see if there's anything else I need to mention before I forget. No. All right. Cool. I'm so proud of myself. I will say I have kind of slowed down on my solstice project, writing a poem a day from solstice to solstice, because I've surpassed the day count. So there are 182 days between solstices, and I've written like 188, I think. So I've taken the pressure off myself because I need that right now to just write as they come. And then I think on June 20th, the summer solstice, I'll probably print them all out and try to go through some edits. But I do have a 30 and 30 project coming up in August, but I don't want to say too much about that yet. So stay tuned to my social media channels for that. And I will now read. Wait, did I? I didn't do that. Do I want to read this one? Okay, this one is a little more personal. I don't know if you guys will if this will make as much sense to most people. This is one I wrote a few years ago. Let's see, what year is it? 2020? I think I wrote this in 2014. Oh. It's called To Mom After a Date. And it has this epigraph from the movie Snatch. He makes stupid bets with dangerous people, and when he doesn't pay up, they give him the chop. If I wrote you a poem, would you forgive me for staying out late, eating chocolate cake in bed, and using every sleep-deprived morning to drink your coffee? I may be growing up and away, in time and space. But at least you know, I've made no stupid bets with dangerous people. And we only watched a movie. So that one was written when I was still living at home. Um, or, well, that's kind of weird to say now. I was still living at my parents' house. Um, and so thank you, Mom, for putting up with my shenanigans. And then, so many poems. Okay, like I said, we're going to go a little bit over today. Hope you don't mind. And you guys can still get in on some freebies, so buy those books. I read that one. Oh, what happened to my... I passed it. Where'd it go? Or maybe I marked the wrong one. That could be. But... oh, here we go. This is a short one. It's called Significant Other. Bless my pink and tired husband, flush from libations and the exertion of being social, contrary to his reclusive tendencies. It takes a special person to brave a crowd of strangers and endure the waxing of words, waning of artistry, for the sake of one's significant other. And I suppose I can mention the dating poem and this poem are about the same person. So, fun fact, both of those are about my husband. And yeah, just nice little sweet things. Okay, I said that I would read this poem for sure. So here we go. 2 more poems. This one is, it's called Kinyarwanda, which, if you don't know, is the language they speak in. Thanks, Mom. Kinyarwanda is the language they speak in Rwanda. And I wrote this, I dedicated this to my friend Elvis, who I met there. And it'll be kind of difficult to understand if you don't, if you haven't heard the language before. But I hope my friends that went with me to Rwanda, if they watch this, that maybe they'll kind of hear it. So this is Kinyarwanda. Following a T or an S, an H in the mouth of a Rwandan speaking English is like an accident waiting to happen. An undeployed airbag to protect the speaker from the potential pileup of letters to come, later proven dysfunctional with a hissing deflation. But try a T after an initial in his language, and he'll laugh, hopefully internally, at your attempt to master sounds that don't exist, or don't belong to you, and maybe can't, never will. And the K? After an interior in, absent. Before an I, it could be the precursor to an explosion, like the pin pull of a grenade, or the cocking of a loaded gun, albeit not one aimed to kill, though maybe to confuse. But don't get me started on the W. After an R or a B, it either disappears or brings a G along for the ride. And good luck getting that guttural sound right. What glides off his tongue comes out like a vomit of sounds from an uncouth American mouth. Even still, I make the effort, if only to understand fidelity in a new but old language. So that's a fun one. And talking about the R and the B at the end, it's funny because I'm trying to think. So Elvis's last name has a lot of consonants together that are really difficult to say. Like Kinyarwanda is hard enough, but then you pile up those consonants and it's even harder. But anyway, the linguist in me really enjoyed writing that one and trying to come up with good sounds and images and analogies. Sorry if you're hearing me like gulp and whatnot as I'm drinking water. Oh, the joys of a good microphone. All right, let's check our emails again. Stay open for a couple more minutes. You guys, get in on this free shipping. We still got 3 spaces left if you want to get in on that free shipping, and subscribe if you want a shot at winning a print of one of the images in the book. It'll be 5x7 glossy print. Let's see. Okay. Um, before we wrap up, what do we need to talk about? How are we doing on questions? Do we get any questions that I didn't answer? I don't think so. Any last minute questions or comments? I got one more poem to close out the night. Anybody? Anybody? Oh, also, if you weren't aware, this stream should save. Please God. YouTube is supposed to save the live streams if they're, less than 12 hours or something ridiculous. So it should be archived here for you to view later or for your friends to view later if they didn't get a chance to tune in. But oh, you don't know where to find your cart. On my website, let's click through it. If you click store, click the book you want, and then click add to cart. The cart button should be in the upper right-hand corner on every page. Are you seeing that upper right-hand corner on the red stripe? There's a little image. I hope other people are not having this issue. Because I click add to cart, added. And then there should be a little number that shows up next to the cart. Okay. Well, send me an email, guys, if you have trouble finding that. I guess we will, since if we end the stream, if we end the night before 10 or those 5 people have purchased books. Oh, could be. I have not used my website on the phone. I should look into that though. In any case, we'll just leave it all open tonight. So all the giveaway stuff will still apply as long as it's done tonight. It's 5:07 here in Alaska, so you got about 7 more hours to buy books and get it on giveaway stuff. Of course, you can buy my books whenever, but in any case, let's wrap it up here with second or third to last poem. Originally, it was the last poem, but now it's the third to last poem. And this is the other one that has to do with a conversation, the conversation Misha was having on that supernatural panel. And the poem is called Little Lovely Moments, which is a phrase I stole from him. I wasn't the first to name them, these little lovely moments. But I noticed, in the timbre of her voice, and the wet kisses of that smiling child, what you felt in a rare embrace from your best friend, and saw in his eyes the weight of these little lovely moments, tipping the ancient scales to a softer, more hopeful world. And that is it for tonight, my friends. Thank you so much for showing up and listening and asking questions, buying my books, checking out my work. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. I hope you guys had a great time. Feel free to reach out whenever on social media or via email, kate@redsweaterpress.com. I will keep an eye on those purchases tonight, and hopefully I can ship things out on Monday. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are great. Super great. I look forward to the time when we can all meet together again in person. That'll be great. I'll enjoy that. And hopefully you will too. So, good night, everybody.